This video is titled Forget, Respect, and Give Me Money. So what I was thinking about that made me want to make this video is, what's going on with this whole martial art thing that I see going on online. It's not just protecting the Chinese martial arts, but just protecting the purity of all martial arts within the Asian cultures that have been heavily exploited by people that are non-Asian. And even Asian people will, of course, exploit their own arts in different ways. But what needs to be fixed is the mass exploitation of the martial arts from non-Asian people first, because that is a greater deficit to the martial arts than than an Asian person destroying the reputation of his own arts. So what I mean is, an example would be, that Matrix movie. It was an amazing movie. I love the movie myself. But think about the movie and you'll find information that they actually stole the idea of the movie, and the story is based upon a book that was written. And the makers of the movie did not give any credit whatsoever to the creator of the story. They didn't mention the person's name, they didn't pay out any money, there was no contract, nothing. So what ended up happening is they discovered later on that it was true, that they stole this idea from somebody, and they eventually ended up having to pay out money to this person that actually created this story and this work. Okay, so that's an example of stealing somebody's creative work, in which not just to claim it as your own, but to also, on top of that, profit from it, and profit an immense amount of money. So that is what happens in the martial arts. People are stealing something that is not their own, and they're claiming it as their own, and then on top of that, they're making money from it, a lot of money, and then they are not giving credit to the creators, and in addition, they are not paying any money to the creators either. And that is something that needs to stop. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to encourage people to create their own arts that are unique to them, and not try to misinform people purposefully and make them believe that they are practicing something that they are not practicing. And if people are going to pass on an art legitimately, there are rules and regulations that need to be followed in order to properly pass on this art in a respectful manner. So it's not okay to learn from somebody's art and then go ahead and teach that of what you learned, and then just give respect to the person that you learned from, and that's it. Money, the giving of money is a much greater form of respect than just saying, oh, thank you, and that's it. It's like the people that stole the Matrix idea from the person, just taking the idea and be like, oh, thank you, and then making millions from the idea, and the story and just everything. stealing everything that didn't belong to them. It's like violating copyright. As I stated, there is no copyright in the martial arts in that manner. So we need to create our own copyrights, because these are not protected. These labels are not protected here in America the way that other labels are protected in America. So, such as these trademark labels that come out in the fitness industry, you might have Taibo, you might have P90X, Pilates, CrossFit. These certain labels that have been created, and then these labels are protected by trademark and copyright. But these labels such as Kung Fu, Karate, Jiu-Jitsu, Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, Ninjutsu are not protected by the law. So we need to self-protect these labels in which to retain its purity and its essence. So the proper thing to do is, when you want to use somebody's label that you did not create yourself, you need to obtain proper permission from that person. And in addition, if you're going to profit from it, you got to get permission from the person to see whether or not that's okay. Whether or not they should keep all the profits to themselves, or they should share some of the profits over to the creator of the label. So if you are a good personal trainer, and then all of a sudden you start advertising CrossFit, and then you get a lot of people coming in making all this money off of the label CrossFit, but you didn't create that label, and then you're teaching it without even being properly certified in CrossFit, and then you make all this money, the creator of CrossFit should be able to legally come after you for stealing his trademark. So that is essentially how this should go when it comes to these martial art labels. Most of these martial art labels that are being stolen are from people that are already dead. And the thing is, with the copyright law, not only is it copyright and trademark, not only is it not governed because these labels are from another country, but they're also not governed because these labels belong to people that have already passed away. So they're completely unprotected, but they still come with a reputation that needs to be protected. So say, Steven Seagal, he didn't create the label Aikido. He's not the founder of Aikido, but yet he's known to be somebody who practiced Aikido, and he became famous from Hollywood and known to be a former practitioner of Aikido. Now say he ends up getting some sexual misconduct allegations on him. Say he starts molesting little boys, and then now Aikido starts to get associated with molesting little boys. Then that completely destroys the reputation of Aikido, of which the founder of Aikido worked so hard to build. And yes, the founder is no longer living, but the actions of this individual have severely destroyed the reputation of Aikido and its potential for growth upon the practitioners that are truly living up to its principles. And the same goes with Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's art, and the creator of Wing Chun. And as I stated, there's going to be Chinese people that will misrepresent the own arts that were created within their country. But that is a separate problem altogether. The initial problem that I'm talking about right now are people of non-Asian descent destroying the reputation of the labels that are created in these Asian countries. That needs to be corrected. So what I'm saying to the people is to create a label that's uniquely your own if you have no permission from these Asian martial art masters. And if you're going to use somebody else's label that was created by them and not you, you need to obtain permission from the person that created that label to see if you are allowed to use that label. And if you're going to profit from the use of that label, then you should discuss the business arrangement and how much of the money should be shared with the creator of that label. Now, if the creator of that label has passed away, then you're no longer allowed to use that person's label in which to promote yourself and profit from. And even the use of labels to confuse people and to wrongfully mislead people is wrong. So, there's another label that's floating around out there where they say you're learning new generation Jeet Kune Do. Just because you put new generation in front of Jeet Kune Do doesn't mean that you created something uniquely for you. You're still misleading people into believing that they're practicing the real Jeet Kune Do created by Bruce Lee, which they're absolutely not practicing. So that is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. Now, even Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's blood daughter, I would say it would not be proper for her to even say something like that or use something like that either. It'd be more proper to create your own label, your own brand of the martial arts that is a representation of you and who you are, and represent it accordingly. Respect is just not good enough. If you're going to steal somebody else's idea, make $100 million from that, not just idea, this is not just an idea, but steal somebody else's art. If you're going to steal somebody else's art, make $100 million from it, and you're not even going to give 1 penny over to the creator of that art, but then you're going to say, oh, I give so much thanks to this person. Thanks is not good enough. Now, if you took this person's art, stole it, and then made $100 million from it, and then you give that $100 million back to the creator of that art, then hey, that is can be seen as a very generous gesture. But that's not what's going on. There's people that are misrepresenting arts out there. There's people that are stealing people's arts and ways, and not only are they not given respect, they're completely ignoring and not even giving any credit to the person whatsoever, to the creator. And then there's people out there that feel that it's okay to steal as long as they give respect. First of all, it's already disrespectful to steal to begin with. How could you give respect when you're stealing for somebody? So the proper thing to do is to get permission. And if you're gonna profit, then discuss the business arrangement. So you have something in your home, say you got something that's worth $1 million painting, and then somebody comes in there and steals it and you don't know who stole it, they leave, and then they sell the painting, they get $1 million. There's that. Then there's a person who steals the painting, sells it, makes 100 million or million, then they send you a thank you letter, said, hey, thank you for that painting, I just made $1 million. All they sent was a thank you letter. Okay. Then there's a person who steals the painting, makes $1 million, and then maybe he might send over the $1 million back to the person who lost the painting and say, I'm sorry for stealing your painting, but I made $1 million, but here's the money. I don't have the painting anymore, but I gave you the money. And then there's the person who goes in and says, hey, I love that painting. I think I could sell it for a lot of money. Is it alright if I try to sell it, get some money? And then the person that owns the painting is like, okay, go ahead. See how much money you can get for it. And then the person that is trying to sell the painting ends up saying, hey, I got $1 million. But I found a buyer. So since I found a buyer, how about we split it halfway? You get 500,000, I get 500,000. Then it becomes a business arrangement at that moment. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to these arts. You need to do it properly. So if you want to use the generalized label of Kung Fu, Wushu, Tai Chi, Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do, at the very least, you need to get permission from a Chinese person, but not only to a further extent, you need to get permission from a legitimate Chinese martial art master. But even so, all the styles that I just indicated in themselves are not truly arts that are living. They're already dead arts that cannot be legitimately passed on anyway. But the label of Kung Fu, in order to use that label, you need to discuss that with a true Kung Fu master and see if you are qualified to represent that. And that's how I feel about it.